On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 vanished during a routine flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Carrying 239 passengers and crew, its sudden disappearance initiated one of the most extensive and perplexing search operations in aviation history. For nearly a decade, the fate of the Boeing 777 has remained shrouded in a fog of speculation, data analysis, and heart-wrenching uncertainty. This deep dive will dissect the critical moments, the data trails, and the enduring theories that attempt to explain humanity's greatest aviation mystery, highlighting the unprecedented challenges faced in its recovery. Flight MH370 departed Kuala Lumpur at 0:42 Malaysia time, destined for Beijing. Its last routine communication with air traffic control occurred at 1:19 Malaysia time, as the aircraft approached Vietnamese airspace, with Captain Zahari Shah signing off with "Good night, Malaysian 370." Just 2 minutes later, at 1:21 Malaysia time, the transponder, which transmits the aircraft's identity and altitude to civilian radar, was switched off. This abrupt cessation of standard communication marked the beginning of an unprecedented global aviation enigma, diverting significantly from standard flight protocols. The disabling of the transponder at 1:21 Malaysia time was not the only anomaly. Analysis later revealed that the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, or ACARS, which transmits operational data, ceased sending messages even earlier, around 1:07 Malaysia time. This 14-minute gap between ACARS and transponder shutdown suggests a deliberate sequence of actions rather than a simultaneous catastrophic failure. The ACARS system's earlier cessation, prior to the flight crew's final routine communication, significantly complicates theories of a sudden, accidental event, pointing towards intentionality. While civilian radar lost MH370, Malaysian military radar continued to track an unidentified aircraft. This secondary data proved crucial. Instead of continuing northeast towards Beijing, the aircraft executed a sharp turn, heading west, back across the Malay Peninsula. This highly unusual deviation from its flight plan was tracked for over an hour, indicating a significant change in direction and intent. The military radar data, initially confidential, became pivotal evidence, suggesting the aircraft was under control and following a distinct, undisclosed flight path, contrary to any emergency protocol. The military radar showed MH370 passing just north of Butterworth on Malaysia's west coast, then turning northwest into the Malacca Strait. This extensive deviation, stretching hundreds of kilometers, strongly suggests a controlled flight, potentially avoiding established air routes and radar coverage. This maneuver, lasting until 2:22 Malaysia time when it flew out of military radar range, consumed valuable fuel and significantly altered its trajectory. The lack of any distress signal during this prolonged and unusual journey deepens the mystery, implying either a deliberate avoidance of communication or incapacitation of the crew. Crucially, even after disappearing from radar, MH370 continued to communicate with a satellite. British Satellite Communications Company Inmarsat provided the most significant clue to the plane's final resting place. Though the aircraft's main communication systems were off, a terminal on board continued to send automated handshake signals, or pings, to an Inmarsat satellite every hour. These 7 intermittent pings, recorded over several hours, provided a unique and unprecedented data set. These were not GPS coordinates, but rather timing and frequency data, revealing the aircraft's general direction and distance from the satellite. Inmarsat scientists used 2 key pieces of information from these handshakes: the burst timing offset, BTO, and burst frequency offset, BFO. The BTO measures the time it took for the signal to travel from the aircraft to the satellite and back, indicating the aircraft's distance from the satellite. The BFO, influenced by the Doppler effect, indicated the aircraft's speed and direction relative to the satellite. These complex calculations allowed investigators to narrow down the aircraft's possible flight path to 2 long arcs, a northern corridor stretching into Central Asia, and a southern corridor extending into the vast Indian Ocean. Through meticulous analysis, investigators determined that the aircraft could only have flown along one of 2 arcs corresponding to the last signal from the satellite. The northern arc was quickly dismissed as implausible due to numerous geopolitical and logistical obstacles. The aircraft would have flown over heavily surveilled airspace without detection. This left the southern arc, an expanse of remote ocean. The final partial handshake, the seventh ping, received at 8:19 Malaysia time, indicated the aircraft was likely running out of fuel and nearing its end-of-flight point somewhere along this southern trajectory. Combining the Inmarsat data with fuel calculations and performance models for the Boeing 777, experts projected the most probable flight path. The theory suggests MH370 continued south into the Indian Ocean for several more hours after its last radar contact, until its fuel was exhausted. This would place the crash site in an extremely remote, deep ocean region roughly 1,800 kilometers southwest of Perth, Australia. The sheer scale and depth of this hypothesized search area presented unprecedented challenges, demanding innovative and costly search technologies. Initially, search efforts concentrated on the South China Sea, along the aircraft's planned flight path. Naval vessels and aircraft from multiple nations, including Malaysia, Vietnam, China, and the United States, converged on the area. This was based on standard protocols following a sudden disappearance and the last known position from civilian radar. Over 60 ships and 50 aircraft were deployed, covering an area of approximately 22,000 square nautical miles within days. However, after extensive aerial and surface searches yielded no wreckage, the focus reluctantly shifted as new data emerged. The discovery of the military radar data and the subsequent, groundbreaking analysis of Inmarsat satellite pings fundamentally altered the search strategy. The search area was dramatically reoriented, moving thousands of kilometers west and then south, into the formidable southern Indian Ocean. This paradigm shift was unprecedented, moving from a relatively well-understood region to one of the most remote and inhospitable parts of the planet. The vastness of the new search zone, combined with extreme depths and challenging weather, presented monumental logistical and technological hurdles for search teams. Searching the southern Indian Ocean is unlike any other aviation recovery effort. Depths in the target area commonly exceed 4,000 meters, 13,000 feet, with some trenches plunging to 6,000 meters. The seafloor is characterized by rugged, mountainous terrain, volcanic ridges, and deep canyons, making detailed sonar mapping an arduous task. Furthermore, powerful ocean currents can disperse debris over vast distances, complicating drift modeling. These environmental factors necessitate highly specialized, expensive equipment, limiting the duration and scope of any search operation, despite the urgency. Before any underwater search could commence, a detailed bathymetric survey of the search area was essential. This involved mapping the seafloor topography to create high-resolution charts, crucial for safely deploying and navigating autonomous underwater vehicles or remotely operated vehicles, ROVs. Vessels like the Fugro Equator spent months systematically surveying an area larger than many countries. This foundational work, covering approximately 208,000 square kilometers, was indispensable, transforming an uncharted abyss into a meticulously mapped terrain, an enormous logistical undertaking prior to the actual search. The primary tools for the underwater search were state-of-the-art autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, and towed deep-sea sonar. Devices like the Bluefin 21 and later Ocean Infinity's fleet of Hugin AUVs operated autonomously for extended periods, mapping the seafloor with side-scan sonar and collecting high-resolution images. These AUVs can descend to depths of 4,500 meters or more, meticulously scouring predefined grids. Their capabilities were crucial for covering vast areas efficiently, but their operational limitations, such as battery life and data retrieval, still constrained the pace of the search. The initial underwater search focused on a highly prioritized area of approximately 120,000 square kilometers in the southern Indian Ocean. This zone was determined by the refined Inmarsat data, drift analysis, and expert consensus on the most probable crash site. Coordinated primarily by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, this became the largest and most expensive search of its kind. Despite the advanced technology and dedicated efforts, covering such an immense and challenging area proved painstakingly slow. The lack of distinct wreckage signals further complicated operations, requiring broad-area acoustic and visual searches. The financial expenditure for the MH370 search was monumental. By the time the initial official search concluded in January 2017, the combined efforts of Malaysia, Australia, and China had cost an estimated $155 million, with Australia contributing approximately $60 million. This figure excludes the vast in-kind contributions from other nations and the significant follow-on costs incurred by subsequent private searches. The immense cost highlights the unprecedented nature of the disappearance and the global commitment to resolving the mystery, even without concrete results. A critical constraint in the initial phase of the search was the limited battery life of the aircraft's black box pingers. The flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder are equipped with underwater locator beacons designed to emit signals for approximately 30 days. By the time the search focus shifted to the southern Indian Ocean, this window had largely closed. The failure to detect any pings from the black boxes before their batteries died meant the search could not home in on a specific signal, forcing a broad area visual and sonar sweep, dramatically increasing complexity and search time. Despite the extensive and costly search, no definitive wreckage of MH370 was found within the designated 120,000 square kilometer underwater search area. This absence has fueled numerous alternative theories and questions about the accuracy of the Inmarsat data interpretation or the nature of the aircraft's impact. Some suggest the plane might have glided further, landing outside the primary search zone. Others speculate about a more controlled ditching, which might have led to less debris. The non-discovery remains a profound challenge to all official conclusions about the plane's final resting place. A major breakthrough occurred in July 2015, over 16 months after the disappearance, when a barnacle-encrusted aircraft flaperon washed ashore on Réunion Island in the western Indian Ocean. French authorities, with the assistance of Boeing experts, positively identified the debris as belonging to a Boeing 777. Its unique part number and structural details matched those specific to MH370. This was the first, and most definitive, piece of physical evidence directly linked to the missing aircraft, confirming it did indeed end its flight somewhere in the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean. The flaperon's discovery was paramount. It confirmed the aircraft crashed in the Indian Ocean, lending strong credence to the Inmarsat data and the Southern Arc theory. Analysis of the barnacles on the flaperon provided clues about its journey, suggesting it had drifted for an extended period. More importantly, forensic examination of the damage offered insights into the aircraft's final moments. Some experts believe the damage indicated a high-energy impact, while others suggested a more controlled descent. This small piece of debris became the cornerstone of understanding the final fate of MH370. Following the flaperon, more than 30 pieces of potential MH370 debris have been found washed ashore along coastlines in Mozambique, Tanzania, Madagascar, South Africa, and Mauritius. 5 of these pieces have been officially confirmed as almost certainly from MH370 by the ATSB, including parts of the engine cowling, interior panels, and structural elements. Each fragment provided further confirmation of the aircraft's crash in the Indian Ocean and supported oceanic drift models, which are used to backtrack the debris to a possible impact zone. These findings, while sporadic, have been crucial in piecing together the narrative. Oceanic drift analysis, using the locations and timing of debris finds, has become a key forensic tool. Scientists use sophisticated computer models, incorporating ocean currents, wind patterns, and the characteristics of the debris, to simulate possible drift paths. These models attempt to backtrack the debris to a likely origin point within the southern Indian Ocean. While not precise enough to pinpoint an exact crash site, they generally reinforce the location of the primary search zone, helping to refine future search areas and dismiss claims of the aircraft impacting elsewhere. With no clear mechanical failure or external threat identified, attention inevitably turned to the possibility of human intervention. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a highly experienced pilot with over 18,000 flight hours, became a central figure of scrutiny. Investigators examined his personal life, psychological profile, and a flight simulator found in his home. While no definitive evidence implicated him, the intentional shutdown of communication systems and the subsequent westward turn pointed towards a deliberate act by someone with intimate knowledge of the Boeing 777 systems and flight procedures. The most widely discussed, albeit unconfirmed, theory is that Captain Shaw deliberately crashed the aircraft in a premeditated act of suicide. This theory gained traction after a recovered flight path from his home simulator was found to closely resemble the calculated route of MH370 into the southern Indian Ocean. Proponents argue that the methodical shutdown of systems and the prolonged flight path are consistent with an individual in control, aiming to make the aircraft disappear without a trace. However, official reports have never concluded this, citing a lack of conclusive evidence. The debate surrounding pilot actions typically centers on two main scenarios: a deliberate act by Captain Zahari Shah versus a sudden incapacitation of both pilots. If incapacitated by hypoxia from a depressurization event, the plane would likely have flown on autopilot until fuel exhaustion, becoming a ghost flight. Conversely, a deliberate act implies conscious control throughout the diversion and into the ocean. The subtle nuances in Inmarsat data regarding flight profile changes or lack thereof could offer clues, but these remain open to interpretation, making a definitive conclusion elusive. Another prominent theory suggests a rapid decompression event or a slow onset of hypoxia incapacitated the flight crew and passengers. In this scenario, the aircraft would have continued flying on autopilot until it ran out of fuel. The lack of communication and the plane's unusual path could be explained by a crew too incapacitated to react. While this avoids the controversial pilot suicide narrative, it struggles to fully explain the precise, deliberate shutdown of ACARS and the transponder, which typically requires manual intervention and specific knowledge. The possibility of an onboard fire, perhaps originating from the cargo hold where a consignment of lithium-ion batteries was declared, has also been considered. A catastrophic fire could explain the sudden loss of communication and the crew's inability to send a distress signal, forcing them to turn back towards Malaysia in an attempt to land. However, for the plane to then continue flying for hours into the southern Indian Ocean, the fire would have needed to incapacitate the crew without completely destroying the aircraft's structural integrity or critical systems that continue to ping. This makes the scenario less coherent without further evidence. The ghost flight hypothesis posits that after an incapacitating event, be it hypoxia, a slow cabin decompression, or an undetected fire, the aircraft continued to fly on autopilot for hours. The lack of further communication from the crew or passengers, despite the plane remaining airborne, supports this idea. This scenario aligns well with the Inmarsat data suggesting a controlled flight path towards the southern Indian Ocean, albeit one devoid of human input. The aircraft essentially became a drone, silently traversing thousands of kilometers until its eventual fuel exhaustion and uncontrolled descent into the ocean. After the official search concluded, a private company, Ocean Infinity, undertook a second major search in 2018. Operating on a no-find, no-fee basis, the US-based firm deployed an array of cutting-edge autonomous underwater vehicles. Their search focused on a new area north of the previous official search zone, identified by updated drift analysis and expert opinion. This marked a significant shift, demonstrating the private sector's willingness to engage in such high-stakes, technologically demanding expeditions where governmental efforts had ceased due to cost and lack of success. Ocean Infinity utilized a fleet of 8 Hugin AUVs, capable of operating simultaneously in diving to depths of 6,000 meters. These AUVs provided enhanced data collection, covering vast swaths of the seafloor more efficiently than previous efforts. Their side-scan sonar and multi-beam echo sounders generated high-resolution imagery, crucial for detecting even small fragments of wreckage. This deployment represented the most technologically advanced attempt to locate MH370, demonstrating the evolution of deep-sea exploration capabilities in the years following the initial disappearance. Despite Ocean Infinity's advanced technology and extensive coverage of approximately 112,000 square kilometers, their 2018 search concluded without locating MH370. The company ceased operations after months of searching, citing the absence of any confirmed wreckage. This second major failure to locate the aircraft intensified the mystery and led to further skepticism about the precise location of the southern arc. It underscored the immense challenges of searching such a vast and deep ocean, even with the most sophisticated equipment available, reinforcing the idea that the plane's final resting place is particularly elusive. In a more recent development, independent researchers have explored using weak signal propagation reporter, WSPR, data. WSPR is a global network of amateur radio enthusiasts whose signals continuously bounce around the world. By analyzing distortions in these signals as MH370 pass through them, researchers claim to have plotted a new, potentially more precise flight path. This method, while highly experimental and controversial within the aviation community, offers a novel approach to tracking aircraft when traditional methods fail, potentially pinpointing a more specific crash zone. The WSPR data analysis, led by independent expert Richard Godfrey, suggests MH370 may have crashed northwest of the previous search area, aligning with a region known as the Broken Ridge. Godfrey's proposed crash site is just 28 kilometers from an area mapped in 2015 by Fugro, raising hopes for a more targeted search. While the methodology faces scrutiny for its novelty and the inherent variability of radio signals, if proven accurate, it could significantly narrow the search area. This highlights the continuous drive by independent experts to innovate and challenge existing assumptions using new data sources. The cargo manifest of MH370 has also been a subject of controversy. It included a consignment of approximately 2,500 kilograms of lithium-ion batteries. While declared as non-hazardous, the sheer volume of batteries and their known fire risk on aircraft has raised concerns. The Malaysia Airlines Flight 7002, a cargo flight, experienced a fire involving lithium-ion batteries just months prior. Critics question if a more thorough inspection or declaration process was necessary, particularly in light of this precedent. The official investigation found no evidence linking the cargo to the plane's disappearance, but the debate persists. One of the most perplexing aspects of the MH370 disappearance is the complete absence of a distress signal, emergency call, or even an activated emergency locator transmitter, ELT. In almost all previous aviation incidents, some form of communication or beacon activation occurred. The methodical shutdown of ACARS and the transponder, followed by hours of silent flight, contradicts the typical behavior of a crew facing an emergency. This silence strongly supports theories of incapacitation or deliberate action, making it difficult to attribute the event to a simple catastrophic failure that would usually trigger distress protocols. The MH370 search involved an unprecedented level of international coordination, but it was not without its challenges. Multiple nations with varying capabilities, political interests, and jurisdictional concerns had to collaborate. Initial delays in sharing crucial military radar data, and disagreements over the interpretation of satellite pings, underscored the complexities of multinational disaster response. While the effort eventually became highly integrated, the early days of the search highlighted gaps in global protocols for dealing with such a novel and ambiguous aviation incident, necessitating new frameworks for cooperation. Despite initial hurdles, the MH370 search eventually saw remarkable international cooperation. Australia, Malaysia, and China led the core investigation and search efforts, but contributions came from over 26 countries. These included naval assets, aerial surveillance, technical expertise, and financial aid. This collective response demonstrated a global commitment to finding answers, driven by both humanitarian concern for the families and the imperative of understanding such an unprecedented aviation event to improve future safety protocols. The sheer scale of the operation required continuous diplomatic engagement. For the families of the 239 passengers and crew, the disappearance of MH370 has been an agonizing, decade-long ordeal. Without a definitive crash site or wreckage, there is no closure. They have tirelessly advocated for continued search efforts, questioned official narratives, and endured immense emotional and financial hardship. Groups like Voice 370 have kept the pressure on governments, demanding answers and transparency. Their unwavering hope, in the face of such profound uncertainty, serves as a powerful reminder of the human cost of this unsolved mystery, resonating globally. The legal ramifications of MH370's disappearance are immense, covering international air law, insurance claims, and liability. Official investigations, primarily led by Malaysia's Accident Investigation Bureau, have meticulously reviewed all available data, releasing several comprehensive reports. These reports have detailed the facts, analyses, and unanswered questions, but have consistently stopped short of assigning blame or concluding the cause of the disappearance. The lack of physical evidence, particularly the black boxes, has made definitive legal and causal conclusions virtually impossible, leaving many legal cases in limbo. Malaysia's final safety investigation report, released in July 2018, concluded that the team was unable to determine the real reason for the disappearance of MH370. It highlighted issues with air traffic control procedures and recommended improvements in real-time tracking systems but offered no definitive explanation for the aircraft's fate. This official ambiguity, after years of painstaking analysis, underscores the unprecedented nature of the incident and the limits of forensic investigation without physical evidence. The report, while thorough, ultimately perpetuated the fundamental mystery for which the world sought answers. Despite billions of dollars spent and countless hours dedicated by experts worldwide, the disappearance of MH370 remains one of aviation's greatest unsolved mysteries. The absence of a distress call, the deliberate shutdown of communication systems, the vast and challenging search area, and the unique Inmarsat data all contribute to a puzzle that defies conventional explanation. Every new theory or piece of debris offers a fleeting hope of resolution, yet the fundamental question, what happened to MH370, continues to haunt the aviation world and the families of those on board. Even without a definitive answer, the MH370 tragedy has prompted significant reforms in aviation safety. The International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, has introduced new global tracking standards, requiring commercial aircraft to report their position every 15 minutes over oceanic areas. Furthermore, proposals for robust distress tracking systems that automatically transmit an aircraft's location in abnormal circumstances are being developed. These changes aim to prevent a repeat of the MH370 scenario, ensuring that no large commercial aircraft can ever again vanish without a trace. Post-MH370, the aviation industry has accelerated efforts to implement real-time flight tracking. Initiatives such as the Global Aeronautical Distress and Safety System, GADSS, endorsed by ICAO, are designed to ensure continuous tracking of aircraft anywhere in the world. This system aims to provide accurate location information in distress situations, improving response times and significantly narrowing search areas. While full implementation is still ongoing, the emphasis on constant surveillance marks a paradigm shift, directly addressing the critical data gaps exposed by the MH370 incident. The MH370 search pushed the boundaries of deep ocean exploration. Future searches, if they occur, could benefit from even more advanced technologies. These might include swarm robotics, multiple, smaller AUVs working collaboratively, enhanced AI for data analysis, and satellite synthetic aperture radar, SAR, for detecting subtle surface anomalies. The Whisper data, though nascent, also represents a frontier of passive tracking. Each technological leap brings us closer to potentially solving such mysteries, but the economic and logistical hurdles for deploying them remain significant. Even a decade on, new theories and expert opinions continue to emerge, often fueled by re-evaluations of existing data or attempts to integrate new, non-traditional data sources like Whisper. Some propose more precise glide path scenarios, placing the aircraft further south than initially calculated. Others re-examine the political context or even far-fetched notions of external intervention. While many theories remain speculative, they highlight the scientific community's persistent drive to piece together this puzzle, refusing to let the unanswered questions fade away completely, as the lack of resolution continues to bother many. Beyond the technical data, the search for MH370 is fundamentally a human story. It is the story of 239 lives, their families, and the thousands of people who dedicated years to the search. It's a testament to human resilience and the global community's shared desire for answers. The emotional impact continues to reverberate, shaping advocacy for victims' rights and influencing how future aviation tragedies are handled. The human element ensures that even if the physical plane is never found, the memory of MH370 will continue to influence aviation, compelling ongoing vigilance. Periodically, calls for renewed search efforts resurface, often ignited by new data analysis or technological advancements. Ocean Infinity has reiterated its willingness to undertake another no-find, no-fee search if new credible evidence emerges to significantly narrow the search area. Families remain hopeful that governments will once again commit resources. The prospect of finding MH370 remains distant without a more precise location, but the global aviation community acknowledges the imperative to exhaust all reasonable avenues, driven by the desire for closure and for critical lessons in aviation safety. The decision to launch another search involves a complex cost-benefit analysis. With hundreds of millions already spent, the financial implications are enormous. Against this, one must weigh the imperative of providing closure to families, learning vital safety lessons, and maintaining public trust in aviation. The economic cost is immense, but the non-monetary costs of an unresolved mystery are also significant. Future searches would likely require extremely high confidence in a refined target area to justify the investment, presenting a perpetual dilemma for policymakers and search organizations. The legacy of MH370 extends beyond its immediate mystery. It has irrevocably altered the landscape of aviation safety, emergency response, and flight tracking. It highlighted vulnerabilities in global air traffic management and spurred innovation in satellite technology and deep-sea exploration. While the physical aircraft remains lost, its impact is profound, ensuring that the industry is better equipped to handle future disappearances, and that the lessons learned from this unparalleled tragedy continue to shape policy, technology, and humanitarian efforts for decades to come. Ultimately, the story of MH370 is one defined by unanswered questions. What truly happened in the cockpit? Was it a deliberate act, an accidental incapacitation, or a catastrophic system failure? Why did no distress signal ever transmit? Where exactly did the Boeing 777 come to rest, and why has it eluded detection by the world's most advanced search technologies? These questions persist, driving continuous academic interest, public speculation, and the enduring hope of the families. The mystery remains, a testament to the vastness and unforgiving nature of our planet. As we conclude our deep dive into the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, it's clear that this is more than just an aviation incident, it's a profound human mystery. The unprecedented combination of advanced technology, vast search areas, and elusive data points has created an enigma that continues to challenge our understanding of modern flight and our capacity for recovery in the most extreme environments. Until the main wreckage is found, or irrefutable evidence emerges, MH370 will remain an open wound in aviation history, a stark reminder of the unknown that lies beneath the surface.